Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is leading seaman Jamie Hockings. As part of the memorial's commemorations to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, this evening we commemorate the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe began its aerial assault in July 1940. With nearly twice the aircraft and aircrew as the Royal Air Force, Reich Marshal Hermann Goering believed he could wipe the RAF from the skies in 4 weeks, helping to pave the way for the planned German invasion of England. British and German aircraft clashed in the skies above England, and German bombers began striking cities and civilian targets in August, marking the beginning of the Blitz. The turning point in the Battle of Britain came on the 15th of September 1940, when British coastal radar stations picked up dense formations of German bombers and fighter escorts racing across the English Channel. Fighter Command scrambled 24 fighter squadrons to intercept them, and hundreds of aircraft locked in fierce aerial combat in the skies over Britain. Unable to defeat the RAF and faced with mounting losses that could not be replaced, the German invasion was cancelled. That day, the 15th of September, was chosen to remember the significance of the Battle of Britain. While a majority of those who participated were Britons, Australians were involved, flying operations with Fighter Command, Bomber Command and Coastal Command. 35 Australians flew combat operations with Fighter Command during the Battle of Britain, 10 of whom were killed in action. They were among the airmen immortalised by British Prime Minister Winston Churchill in his powerful tribute to the men of Fighter Command. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Shortly we'll tell the story of Pilot Officer Murray Alfred Lyne, who was among the brave Australian airmen serving with the RAF during the Second World War, supporting resistance movements in occupied Europe. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Air Marshal Stephen Chappell, Chief of Air Force, Warrant Officer of the Air Force, Warrant Officer Air Force Ralph Clifton. We also warmly welcome Mr. Patrick Delgaitis, Deputy President of the Returned and Services League of Australia ACT branch, Group Captain Bruce Chandler, retired, representing the Air Force Association, Brigadier Tan Tiong Ket, Commandant of the Singapore Armed Forces Training Institute, accompanied by Group Captain Tim Anderson, Director of the Australian Command and Staff Course at the Australian Defence College, Professor San Bam Yu, and the delegation representing the Korean National Defence University, who are accompanied by Group Captain Brett Williams from the Australian Defence College, and the delegation from the United States of America, Canada, the United Kingdom, New Zealand and Australia, representing the Five Eye members from across the cyber community, and their accompanying delegations. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Killarney P10 State School visiting from Killarney, Queensland, and students on behalf of Mount Carmel College visiting from Sandy Bay, Tasmania. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Students and visitors who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us during war and on operations over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Murray Alfred Lyne. Murray Lyne was born on the 1st of August 1917 in the Sydney suburb of Campsie. He was one of 3 children and the only son born to Alfred Clive Lyne, a storekeeper, and his wife Jean. Little is known about Murray's childhood and early life. When the Second World War broke out in 1939, he was working as a commercial traveller. Murray Lyne enlisted for service immediately after Australia entered the war. He served initially with the 2nd Division Australian Army Service Corps, but left in 1941 to join the Royal Australian Air Force. Murray Lyne was mustered as aircrew and trained at schools across the country. In March 1942, as part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he embarked for Canada to undertake further training that he had to be completed before he could be allocated to an operational unit. Lyne was sent to No. 5 Service Flying Training School at Brantford, Ontario, training on the Avro Anson. In August 1942, Lyne completed his training and travelled to the United Kingdom. He spent a few weeks at a personal reception depot in Bournemouth before being allocated to No. 15 Pilots Advanced Flying Unit at Andover in Hampshire. There, additional flight training aimed at helping new pilots to adapt to flying conditions in England, which were more dangerous than those in Canada and Australia. Murray Lyne got his first taste of flying in more congested areas, often with more cloud, fog, other aircraft and balloons. In February 1943, he was able to join an operational training unit at Royal Air Force Base, Abingdon near Oxford, training as night bomber crew. Lyne then joined a heavy conversion unit, learning to operate the newer 4-engined heavy bombers, such as the Halifax and Lancaster. Having finally completed his training, Lyne was allocated to his first operational unit, No. 161 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. Part of the Royal Air Force Special Duties Service, the squadron joined missions of the Special Operations, Executive and the Secret Intelligence Service. The squadron's primary duties included dropping secret agents and equipment to resistance fighters in Nazi-occupied Europe, and later collecting them. The squadron used a variety of different aircraft, including Lysanders, Halifaxes, Stirlings, and Hudsons. Lyne's early operational flights were undertaken in Halifax bombers, in which he served as pilot. On many of these missions, he and his comrades were tasked with delivering supplies to resistance fighters, as well as dropping propaganda leaflets over French towns. Over the following months, Lyne and his comrades carried out similar operations over Belgium, Holland, and Denmark, as No. 161 Squadron continued supporting resistance movements in occupied Europe. On the 10th of November 1943, Lyne and his comrades took off from RAF Tempsford in a Halifax on a routine mission over France. But after takeoff, nothing further was heard from the crew. They failed to return to base and were listed as missing. Their fate was unclear for almost a year. But in May 1944, one member of the crew, Flying Officer Pilkington, was discovered as a prisoner in Germany. He related that Lyne had lost control of the Halifax while flying under heavy cloud cover. The aircraft plummeted to the ground and crashed near Brunels in France, killing everyone on board except Pilkington. Lyne and his comrades were all buried at Saint-Nazaire War Cemetery in France. In Australia, his community paid tribute with a dedication of church gates in his memory. Lyne's family commemorated him in the local newspaper, quoting the Royal Australian Air Force motto, per ardura ad astra, meaning through struggle to the stars. Pilot Officer Murray Lyne was 26 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. But this is one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Murray Alfred Lyne, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, in the hope of a better world.
If you are able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and wish you all a very pleasant evening.